Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is Saturday. The Browns are getting ready to have a playoff game in Houston that's going to be epic versus CJ Stroud. So we're going to lead right into that. Talk a little bit about the OC search narrowing. Caleb Downs' coach is gone from Alabama. Where did he end up? How does that affect what we're doing? And what are our chances of getting him? So we're going to break all that down, as well as we got a portal ad, re-ad. Welcome back, Bryson Rogers. So going to get into all that. As always, thank you, as always, for joining us. Again, we appreciate all of your support. If you guys have super chats, fire those up, and we will get those answered for you. Again, thank you for all of the support. It's been huge for Pay It Forward. We added another member today. Thanks to Pay It Forward. So we're taking care of some people. So thank you so much for all of that. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. We're going to get into all this. Shout out where you guys are watching from. And in the comments, what are your plans for the Browns game? I'm really excited for this one. A lot of Ohio intrigue with CJ on the other side. So we're going to get into all that and lead right into that game. Nevada, Caleb Downs' coach, Travaris Robinson, was poached immediately by Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football, so he knows what he's doing when he hires the safeties coach from Georgia to be his DC. Will Muschamp got put off the pasture as an analyst. Your thoughts on that? Again, I think Caleb Downs is followed by every single player on Ohio State on Instagram. And again, that can mean something, could not mean something. But in the past, when we've seen Will Howard start following guys and our new tailback, Quinshawn Judkins, start following guys, they end up here. So I think there's a lot of smoke around that. I think that Brandon Innes is putting in overtime to try to get Caleb here. And I think that the foundation is ready to step up and write that kid a big check. But your thoughts on that?
I think it's a very real possibility right now. And, my information obviously is that Caleb is contemplating a move into the portal. I would expect that to happen. You've seen two other Alabama cornerbacks enter the portal here in the last 24 hours. So, if you think about it with Downs, his two guys were Robinson and Saban, and they're both gone right now. And Downs, there's no love lost between Caleb Downs and Georgia. I'm not a big fan of Georgia. There's history that goes back there to offering his brother or not offering his brother, and I think people would look at it and say maybe George's a player in this. I'm not hearing that George is a big player in this. I'm hearing it's down to stay at Alabama or enter the portal and go to Ohio State. So the people I talk to, Ohio State's starting to get more bullish about the opportunities. The players are starting to get more bullish about the opportunity. And I expect to see some action on this by the end of the weekend. So stay tuned.
Yeah, if I'm that kid and I see Washington and the staff that they had last year and how bad they were on defense, you can't stay. I mean, you're not going to get developed like when Nick Saban's coaching you, and that's why you go to Alabama if you're a safety, is because Nick Saban is the greatest secondary coach who's ever lived, and now he's retired. And now you brought in a guy who got shredded by Michigan, got shredded by Texas, easily could have lost to Texas because he was so putrid, icing the game down. I mean, it was like malpractice what they did that team. And Quinn Ewers, if Sark didn't lose his mind from like the 15-yard line and call 3 terrible plays, they win that game. I mean, it was really bad. And it's like, if you're a safety, even if you're as massively talented as Caleb, you have to be developed for 2 more years. It's not like you're only going to be there for 1 year. You got 2 more years wherever you decide to stay or go. And again, the foundation, I know they really like going after proven commodities like Will Howard, and they made Will Howard a humongous offer, which got him to Ohio State. So thank you to the foundation again for doing that and getting that done, because that was them. And Caleb Downs is right in the crosshairs. I'm just telling you. So he's gonna be living real good, just like JJ Smith. JJ Smith, the foundation stepped up and locked JJ in. So. I mean, the big dogs, that's where the foundation steps up and plays. And I'm excited to see what this kid does. Because, again, I don't think you could ever feel betrayed. But you might if a 72-year-old coach leaves on you, quits on you, and then your safeties coach leaves because he probably wasn't getting retained or he doesn't like the style of defense or whatever. And honestly, like if I'm T-Rob, I'd rather go work for Kirby Smart anyways, because Kirby Smart's going to make Georgia what Alabama was 10 years ago in the SEC now that Saban's gone. And I'm sure T. Rob wants to be a head coach. So I mean, I'd latch my wagon to Kirby Smart and be his DC. But for Caleb, man, it kind of puts him in no man's land because Alabama is gonna fall. You know, they're not going to be what they were under Nick Saban. Again, I think the Caleb DeWar hire is going to be very interesting because again, he is pure North. He has never coached in the South. He has no Southern ties. I mean, he was in like Idaho and Indiana and now Washington, and now he's got to go down into like the South. And like, I don't know. Like, I think there's guys that have been down there that have deeper recruiting ties and know the lay of the land, and they know the SEC a lot better. You can learn it. I mean, Urban Meyer learned it, but you know, Nick Saban learned it too when he came from Michigan State to LSU. But it is a different universe down there. Now, I will say it is a lot more balanced and even because of NIL. Because before, when it was everything was, you know, synthetic and done in the cloak of darkness and the bagmen and the McDonald's bags full of money and that type of thing. Like, that was a different world. Now you can do it all in the open. You can go buy whoever you want, and that's the beauty of it. And again, I've said this. I said,
but Kirk, you're such a northerner. You're like McDonald's bags. It's Chick-fil-A bags.
Chick-fil-A. Yeah.
You're down.
We've got Chick-fil-A up here too. You know, but I mean, most of the
you're like.
Most of these kids, yeah, but most of these kids in the hood, they're not eating Chick-fil-A too expensive. I mean, they're eating McDonald's. I mean, I grew up on McDonald's. I mean, Chick-fil-A is like, I mean, I go get Chick-fil-A for my kids. It's like $50. It's like,
well, that's
dude,
you were a rich kid growing up.
No, I was a poor kid. I was eating 99-cent double cheeseburgers back when we were a true country and we had a real 99-cent menu back in the glory days. Which I think that might have been like 5 years ago. We might have had that. We don't have that anymore. I don't know why.
The dollar menu.
Yeah, back when we had $1.50 gas too, it was glorious. But no, I think it's going to be interesting to see how many guys, because Bama's going to get guys in the portal. I mean, this guy, I'm sure he had his first team meeting day. Alabama introduced him today. They did the big presser. And again, everything's lovey-dovey right now, and he's trying to round out his staff. And it'll be interesting to see his defensive staff because his offensive staff is coming with him. Grubb, the guy that a lot of you guys were asking about last night, he's coming with, and so you know he's probably gonna have to amplify that D staff and get some guys that have Southern ties. Because I'm telling you, you can't just go recruit the South and nobody knows the lay of the land, nobody has any influence or ties or whatever. Because that's part of the equation when you're analyzing hiring a coach is what does he bring to the table from a recruiting perspective? Who does he know? What areas is he proficient in? And again, that sounds dumb. And for some guys, it doesn't matter because like a guy like Mike Vrabel, he's got so much charisma and persona. He can walk into the hood or the most uppity lily white, you know, high school in Boston, and he still has the same amount of cred. But not everybody's like Vrabes. You know, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are, you know, as Urban Meyer termed them, stiff white guys. And, you know, they can't really walk their way into anywhere and they're awkward and they're not a great example for the university. And they're definitely not going to win over any of the smoother recruits. But I think it's going to be interesting to see, does he go get a big time SEC style coordinator? Because that's going to be what he's going to need down there. Because the thing about what he did at Washington is that ain't going to work in the SEC. I mean, you got to play defense down there or else you're going to get absolutely smoked. Nevada.
Well, yeah. Let me just say one other thing on Caleb Downs because I wanted to say this earlier, but I didn't get it out. But I wanted to say this: when Caleb Downs came to Alabama, Nick Saban assured him, promised him that he would be there throughout his entire time. Now things change, health condition change. We understand, but that was the basis upon which he committed to Alabama. So now between Saban leaving, between Robinson leaving, there's definitely a fracture. And so I just think that this one has got more legs than the usual stuff. You know, normally in this stuff, you know, you hear about names, but there's really not a whole lot to it. There's something to this. I'm not saying it's going to happen 100%. I'm not going all in like we did on all the other Ohio State players coming back, and we swept the board on that one. But there's absolutely something. There are ongoing conversations about this. You know, Caleb Downs is absolutely in play, and you know, the Saban, I'm going to be here throughout your entire time before you head out to the NFL, and then, sorry, you know, stuff happens and I got to move on. Well, Caleb may take the same thing. Hey, sorry, stuff happens. Time for me to move on. As two other your cornerbacks from Alabama decided to do today. So keep an eye on this one because I'm telling you, this one's very much in play.
Well, like the interesting thing to me is like when you have, when you've got Nick Saban, and again, he mentioned this in the press conference when he's 72 years old, and every player's like, "Are you going to be there for my 5 years, coach?" And I mean, you can't say no because then you immediately lose the kid. So it's basically like you have to lie, which sucks because I mean, these coaches, I think, some of them are honest. A lot of them are completely dishonest and scumbags. I mean, coaching. If there's ever a profession where liars just thrive, I mean, coaching is the number one in the universe. But these guys, they try to be honest to these kids, but eventually, like, when you're 72, man, and you're getting up and it's hard to peel yourself out of bed, it's rough, man. I mean, time is undefeated, and this is why these guys all fall off as they get older. I'll be OHIO. Thanks for the 10. What did I miss? Days, his down's coming. How did I become an ultra member? Go Browns. Okay, so, no, we were just talking about Downs' position coach is gone. So again, that's another huge domino that's fallen for him to potentially enter the portal. I think that there's going to be a lot of guys that enter the portal. And again, I think, he might stick it out. They've got 30 days now. So it's not like the clock, hits midnight and they're done. They've still got, God, and when did Saban retire? On like Wednesday, Tuesday, maybe? And so, I mean, they've got, obviously, I mean, into February before they're going to close the portal on these guys. But I'm sure that these coaches are going to try to convince these guys, and he's probably going to want to see who his new coach is going to be and whatever. But right now, he doesn't have a coach. So I mean, he's literally, you go to the Alabama facility, like he doesn't even know who's in the position room. It just has a blank slate on it and says to be determined. To become a Scoop Ultra member, if you're on your phone, I believe there's a little, if you click on our thing, there's a little dollar sign, and I think you can join from there. Or the easiest way is on your computer. If you go to YouTube and search Buckeye Scoop, it takes you to our little homepage, and it says join, so you can become a subscriber. We're going to do a film breakdown. That's what we decided we're going to do with our Scoop Ultra members. We're going to break down a couple games. We're going to break down some Quinshon Judkins, some of the All-22 film. I think it's going to be really good. So we're going to get that scheduled in the next week or two. So you guys won't want to miss it. It's going to be really fun to break down. It'll be a small crowd because it's going to be just a Scoop Ultra member, so it'll be real exclusive. So take your questions, get your answers. I think it'll be really fun. It'll be just something different that'll be something that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So appreciate you guys. It's a great way to support the channel and support Pay It Forward. Sign up another Pay It Forward guy today. So we appreciate you guys taking care of our military and our armed forces, because they're what keeps us safe in this country. Nevada, on the OC search, we had, what was the place called? The Whiskey and the Wolf or something? The Wolf of Wall Street, or some gastro pub sounding place in Toledo. Brian Hartline, Jason Candle spotted there allegedly by one of our board members. And then it just so happens that they went to go watch the tackle from Toledo, Whitmer, Carter Lowe that night. So that kind of lines up with everything. And, Justin Fry was up there. Corey Dennis was up there. They said a contingent, Tim Walton. So it's that's a big contingent for one guy who's going to be deciding in a week or two. But hey, it's the first time that you had some open space since the dead period is officially over. So these guys can start recruiting again, going to watch basketball games, wrestling matches, whatever. But your thoughts on what's going on with the OC search? I just think Jason Candle makes a lot of sense. I've known Jason since 2005. I've known him for a long time. But he makes a lot of sense because, again, if Ryan Day wants a true head coach of the offense, I think the easiest thing you could do is hire a guy who's actually been a head coach. And these MAC guys, again, these MAC jobs suck now. I mean, they're terrible. And he'd double his salary at least. He'd get to run Ohio State's offense for a year or two, and then if they crush it, he's going to get a head coaching offer that he's going to like and going to take that. But your thoughts on that?
Well, talk to one of my best agent sources, and what he said was that Day is still conducting NFL inquiries, and that's why it's stretching out in this week, because he goes, look, if it was just Candle, it would have already been done. He goes, so I don't want to characterize Candle as like a plan B, but certainly, A and 1A. And I think Ryan is definitely exhausting all opportunities to see who is potentially available through the NFL. And that's going to include games that could be potentially going on this weekend. So I think / know that he's continuing to have conversations with NFL guys. So I'm not sure if this is settled science yet that it's going to be Candle. It certainly could end up that way. I know he's high up on the list. I know there's been contact. I know there have been meetings, but I'm not sure if Ryan wouldn't want to poach an NFL guy if the right NFL guy became available. And as we talked about yesterday, Ryan literally has unlimited budget on this. He's been told by Ohio State that he has unlimited budget to get this hire right, and I think he's gonna press that and exhaust all opportunities to get it because it's a big hire for him. It's a big year for him, and you know they wanted to reload the MFer clip. Well, they have certainly reloaded the MFer clip, and
Yeah.
you got to get the right OC to kind of pull the trigger now. And Ryan Day is certainly exhausting all avenues to try to find that guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, for you guys that are in the chat, put your Browns scores. I want your predictions. I know a lot of you guys are getting ready to watch this Browns game. Again, we're very cognizant of when there's a huge game on, and we do not want to podcast against a Browns playoff game. That'd be the dumbest thing in the history of mankind. We don't like to go against Ohio State basketball. We always try to make sure that if you guys have a conflict, error in the side of supporting Ohio, and we don't want to ever be in a conflict with that. So, but I want to hear those scores for the Browns games. And do you pull for CJ Stroud? Do you want CJ Stroud to get knocked out by Myles Garrett? It's just like one of those things. Like, how hardcore of a Browns fan are you? I went to every O2, and I saw a lot of losses. I saw some really cold, terrible games. Eddie George ran for like 200 yards in one game, and it was unbelievable how much running he did. It was a game that was all snow. I mean, the ground was covered in snow, and it was so cold. Oh my God! Saw Peyton Manning beat us a last-second field goal like he always seemed to do. It was. I saw the Dwayne Rudd helmet throwing game. I saw Bottlegate, the Jacksonville game where they overturned Quincy Morgan's pass. They like ran a play, and then the officials come back and said, "Oh, we're gonna actually re-review the other play before the play." And then the bottles came flying. I was at that. I mean, it was incredible. So I hope the Browns win. That being said, yeah, again, Jason Candle makes sense to me just because, again, he's an Ohio guy. He's run a program for a long time. He's had a lot of success at Toledo. His offense, I mean, again, I talked to 3 guys that coach with either for or with Jason Candle, and they all said he throws the ball a lot. He probably too much. Like, he loves, and as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh God, Ryan Day's gonna love that. Let's just go back and chuck that thing. But I think that Jason's at the point now where he's probably tapped out as what he could do at Toledo because, again, he thought coming back, and again, I couldn't imagine being at that school and you lose your 3 top guys on offense coming back to the transfer portal. They all literally get poached and bought from you. And that's the new reality of these MAC jobs, man. So these MAC coaches that are like, man, I'm going to build a program and we're going to be real good and build a culture. And then like you find some gems and these guys just get pilfered, man. It's crazy. But again, I don't, that's just my opinion. Like, I think that, the transition from being a head coach in the MAC to being like a high-powered, big-time offensive coordinator at like one of the superpowers, I think it's never been more enticing than right now. Because I'm just telling you, like, if I'm Candle, man, and Ryan Day offers me that job, I'm on the first thing smoking coming down here from Toledo. I'd be down here in about 3.5 hours, going about 100 miles an hour to get here. So you probably get here about 2.5 hours from Toledo. Yeah, it'll be real fascinating. And again, the hard part, the thing I always caution people with when people say, who's on your big board for OC? Who's on your big, it's like the last 5 OCs we've hired, I don't think anybody could project. Like the closest one I think you could project was Tim Beck because Ed Warner was there and him and Tim were at Kansas together. So Urban, with the synergies and all that, like you thought it would work, and obviously it was a disaster. But like nobody called Tom Herman. Nobody knew who Ryan Day was. I mean, it's kind of a fool's errand because we'll talk about Jason Candle and Joe Brady and Liam Cohen and all these guys, and like he'll end up hiring some guy on the left field, and we'll just be like, oh, my bad. But hey, it's good fodder. I mean, it's a podcast, right? Harris Shinasimi, appreciate you, my man. Thanks for the deuce. Anything about Keon Keeley in OSU? That one is interesting. I have not heard anything about Keon Keeley. Now, could he's a guy that was loving it up, and him and Luke Montgomery were giving each other doe eyes around LeBron when LeBron is here. I'll never forget that. But Keon's a little different just because our defensive end room is loaded. You know, with Jack and JT back, and then you got Kenyatta, Caden, you get the freshman coming, and you got our kid from Georgia. I mean, that's a different scenario. I mean, safety, boy, Caleb Downs shows up, man. Sonny Styles is heading to the bench like tonight. You have Caleb and Lathan back there, and Sonny's going to move up to will linebacker. Keon, I don't think. I mean, maybe he'd land here, but I mean, it's just like, do you want to wait or does he want to go start somewhere? That's the question. Nevada, your thoughts on Keon Keeley?
Well, one, I've heard Styles is already moving to linebacker. I've already heard that that's already the plan, and that regardless of what happens with Downs, that he's definitely going to be linebacker this year. So we'll see how that happens. Yeah, with Keeley, I think what kind of sealed that one, like you said, was Jack and JT coming back. Halfway through the year, beginning of the year, nobody could have really anticipated that happening. We'd heard it was happening. We were skeptical hippo till the bitter end, and then it did happen. So I think that one, kind of shuts that door. I would think the two guys from Alabama that I think are most realistic are a guy like Caden Proctor, depending on what happens with Walford, and obviously Caleb Downs, and those are the ones that are the highest on Ohio State's list. Those are the two guys on their Ohio State wish list, on their shopping list. It's Downs and then Proctor, and I have not heard as much about Proctor and interest. I know that the Downs interest is absolutely 100% legitimate. Can confirm that so that's the one that I'm keeping an eye on. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on Caden Proctor as well, because that could shake some things up. I mean, you get Caden Proctor, you could potentially move Jimmy Simmons to right tackle, which is where he played at San Diego State, and slide Josh Fryer into guard, and you've got a nice tight little unit there with a lot of experience and quality backups behind them. So that could be something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I mean, Caden Proctor would be a dream, but I mean, we got to get him in shape. I mean, that's the thing, is like, that kid's got to lose 30 pounds. He's got to get down to about 330. He's about 360 this year, and sloppy and slow. And by the end of the game, he's about ready to die. But he's got a lot of ability. He's like Jackson Carman. Like, Jackson Carman was like 380, and they had to whittle him down and get him skinny. But the weight guys always have weight problems. I'm just telling you. Like, when you recruit these O linemen, if they're 380, man, you gotta keep your foot on their necks forever to keep them under 350, because those guys, they go home for a weekend, man, they'll gain 30 pounds. And I'm not even kidding. And I don't even know how they do that, but it's like they just eat everything, and they just eat more. And then when they go to bed, they eat like a pizza, and then they wake up and eat 12 donuts. And I mean, I'm telling you, so I played with a Georgia Bulldog when I was with the Bears, kid named Chester Adams. And Chester Adams was we were like Forrest and Bubba in Bubba Gump, that's what we were like when we were rookies in the league. This kid, he was like 350. He's from Georgia. He's like a big fat Georgia offensive tackle. He's my boy. He would wake up in the middle of the night with his brothers. His brothers were all like 450 pounds. And again, like, I don't even know if they're alive, but they would wake up at 2 a.m. during the summer. He told me this when he was growing up in Alabama, and they knew that at 3 a.m. or 3:30 or some ungodly hour, that was when the Krispy Kreme in their town would start cooking the donuts, and the hot sign would turn on. No, I swear to Christ, he would say we would set our alarms in the summer every night at 3:30 in the morning, and we would all each get 24 donuts and a gallon of whole milk. And they would each eat 24 donuts and a gallon of milk. And I was like, I mean, you guys got the computers out. Like, how many calories is it if you eat 24 donuts and a gallon of whole milk? And that's got to be like 7,000 to 8,000 calories, right? But they did that every night. And I was like, oh my, and Chester, I was like, no wonder you got a weight problem. Like, I mean, they were fighting him every day because he was so overweight during training. But that's like, you get these fat linemen, man, and that's what they do. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. I'm like, why would you do that every day? Why would you eat 24 donuts? I don't know. Jay Webb, thanks for the 5. Is it realistic to think Joe Brady would come back to college football if we offer him a Godfather offer? I think so. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
I think it's absolutely possible. I think it's absolutely possible. I mean, if he had the right situation with the right raw material, I mean, Joe Brady's not going to go somewhere where it's like a rebuild or a place where some unproven guys or thing. No, he's not going to do that. But if he gets a chance to drive a Cadillac again and do it and get paid a ton of money, absolutely, I could see that happening. Not saying it would happen, but I think it absolutely could happen. And I think that's the type of splash hire that I think Ryan would be looking for to make with this great raw material and an unlimited budget. That's the kind of the guys you go after.
Well, and you have to remember, whoever we hire as OC isn't going to be a long-term guy. He's going to be here 1 to 2 years, and it's a launching stone. Like, I mean, they're not all Jim Knowles or Jim Haycock or guys that are, a little long in the tooth, a little older. I mean, I know Duke talked to Jim Knowles, but I mean, he's not going to be like a red hot coaching candidate just because of his age, his look. No one's going to hire him as a head coach. They want a young, Kalen DeBoer looking dude, offensive guy. Like, that's what's in vogue right now with ADs and with NFL owners and whatever. So, if Joe Brady has to come schlep it at Ohio State for a year and make $3 million and coach Will Howard and JJ Smith and Trey Henderson and whatever, and steer this offense around, and then, get a good college head coaching offer or a good NFL head coaching offer, whatever, like, he'll do it. Now, if he gets offered to be like the OC of the Ravens because Todd Monken becomes the head coach of the Falcons or some craziness, I mean, you just don't know. And it'll be interesting because there's, I'm sure Ryan wants to interview a couple of these guys that are coaching this weekend that are OCs. But, how much do they want to get into college? And again, if it's a 1-year deal, like you can kind of delete the NIL stuff and all the portal stuff and all that because, if you're Joe Brady, you're probably thinking you're going to be here for 1 year anyways, or 2 years. Versus, like Jason Canadle, probably going to be here 1-2 years. Because again, this is an explosive kind of year for Ohio State where we could be so good this year, we could win a national championship, and then guys can just kind of, launch off into space. Like a guy, if we hire Jason Campbell, say we beat Michigan, say we run the playoffs, say we win the championship, and we've got he gets Will Howard into the first round, and these running backs do great. And again, I know that's like kind of the the optimal scenario for us, but I mean, ADs are gonna be like, I want that guy, young, 44, developed a first round quarterback, offense was explosive, well mannered, well versed. Handled the pressure of coaching at Ohio State, handled the Michigan game, the playoffs. Because that's the problem. Is like when you're at Toledo, you don't coach in like huge games. Like you coach in MAC games. The MAC games are fine, but they're not Ohio State, Michigan. They're not Ohio State, Georgia, Ohio State, Bama. Like the games that you face when you're at Ohio State. Like those are like the whole world's watching. Like nobody watches MAC games. Nobody. I don't want to say nobody watches them. I'm not trying to be demeaning to the MAC, but there's a reason why their coaching turnover is like the highest in the entire country. It's because people are either coming or going in the MAC nonstop. Ohio State is a destination. Good.
Now, doesn't the MAC plays on Tuesday nights, right?
No, they play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And again, I think that's genius because they find a window. I know you can watch Ball State versus Buffalo on a Tuesday night, and
as a degenerate gambler, I appreciate the MAC's efforts to put football on Tuesday nights for me. Thank you, MAC.
Well, that's the thing.
Kirk, you having an aneurysm? Are you okay, Kirk?
No, I literally, it's funny. No, I clicked on something and I was playing literally last night's episode in my ear. So yeah, there was a little bit of an aneurysm there because I was like, damn. And it was loud as hell. And I was like, oh my God.
You look like Kalen DeBoer at that press conference today. Like Kalen.
How did he do? No, I didn't watch it. How did he do?
He didn't do good. He didn't do.
Really?
I thought he looked kind of. Thought he looked kind of lost and kind of robotic, and kind of his answers about understanding about how he got teared up and he almost started crying about talking about Alabama football and stuff. And I just found it came across as really inauthentic today. So I didn't think it was great. I'd love to hear what other people's thoughts are, but I didn't think and I like Kalen DeBoer, so I wanted him to be better, but it came across almost like a Brian Kelly country fried accent down there at LSU type of thing. It just wasn't great.
I mean, he was literally the offensive coordinator at Indiana in 2019. Like, that wasn't that long ago. 2019. He was, so if I would have told you in 2019, hey, we're playing Indiana, who we probably beat like 85-7 that day, that offensive coordinator is going to be the head coach at Bama in 4 years, 5 years. Like, you'd be like, I'll take those odds. I'll give you 1,000,000 to 1 odds that the OC from Indiana working for Tom Allen is going to be the next head coach at Bama. That's going to be the guy that takes Nick Saban's job. You'd have been like, I'll give you 1,000,000,000 to 1 on that. That ain't going to happen. Never. Regit, sorry, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. Is that looks like the Pink Floyd thing? I like that AVI. Do you think the people who bet against the team up north when the team up north was cheating and lost money might file a class action lawsuit? That'd be very interesting. I don't know what the grounds would be for that. Again, it's always fascinating, like when there's cheating and wins vacated or overturned or whatever. I don't know how that affects gambling. Nevada, do you have any idea on that?
Yeah, they've tried this before. They've tried this with like Deflategate. They've tried it with a couple other things. These class action suits have never gone anywhere because the betting standards are pretty well laid out in terms of once things are declared final, that's it. And I don't think there'd be. It's a nice idea. I don't believe that there'd be any legal validity to it or anything that could realistically come from that.
Yeah, I mean, the people that make these gambling laws, they are not dumb. So they're going to protect themselves about anything like that. It's like, nope, sorry, Charlie.
Well, let me just. I was going to share. I shared something on the board today. Like today, okay. Example, we've got the Buffalo Steelers game coming up tomorrow. In a snowstorm. So I hammered the under on the game, right? Yeah. So then the governor of New York comes in and changes the game to Monday when there's not going to be a snowstorm, and BetOnline won't let me. They don't cancel the bet, and to me, that's complete BS. I mean, the circumstances of the game have changed completely, and I should get a refund of that bet because the line's gone from like 32 to like 38.5 right now, and it's like I think that's crazy. But anyway, that's my gambling story of the day.
I mean, doesn't that seem fraudulent to you?
Yeah, that does. It totally.
Well, it'd be like if they moved the game to Miami or something. Hey, we're going to play the game in a dome now.
Exactly. What? That's my point. Yeah, that makes no sense.
I mean, that's crazy. Wow. So they won't refund your ticket as soon as you post it. I mean,
yeah.
But
I
mean, it'll still be cold.
I'm appealing with them, but like that seems like a ridiculous position for them to take. But anyway,
yeah, I mean that's a huge change.
Yeah, let's talk about speaking about huge change. Let's talk about Bryson Rodgers coming back because I don't want that to get lost in the show. That's a good one, man. I'm saying Ohio State wanted that to happen. Ohio State worked really hard to get that to happen, and they got him back, and that was a guy that they didn't really want to lose. I know, the stuff for a guy that hasn't done anything on the field yet. It's easy just to kind of send him on down the road. But Ohio State wanted him back and got him back. That doesn't happen very often, and I wanted to call that out today because I thought that was a underrated, sneaky, good piece of news for Ohio State in an offseason that's already been the best in school history, the best in college football history as far as I'm concerned. Just more good news for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I think Bryson's a genius because he went and visited Florida where it's probably 75 degrees and probably went and ate their steaks and lobster tails and spent 3 days down there. Probably went out to the clubs. Probably saw some girls that had some tans. And then he ends up, hightailing it back to Ohio because he probably saw Tarajda down there and some of those guys said, yeah, it sucks down here. We got killed every game and you should go back to Ohio State because I'll probably want a natty. Because that's what some of these kids are they're getting in the portal and I'm like, you guys are really going to some of these crappy schools. You're going to lose a national championship or, but again, it's their prerogative. But yeah, he's a nice ad. We need depth and we need, the thing about spring, man, is we need a lot of receivers because you're going to be running 3 groups. We've got 4 quarterbacks. You got to get Will Howard reps. You got to get Devin reps. You got to get Lincoln reps. You got to get Air reps. So you need healthy wide receivers and a lot of them because there's going to be a lot of routes getting run. So, we need some healthy hamstrings. So welcome back, Bryson. Get your shoes ready for 6 a.m.s because they start in a few weeks. Mike Green, thanks for the 5. Kirk, with these new pieces on offense, we can be unstoppable. No excuses now, Ryan Day. I agree. I mean, this is the last. I guess the last piece of the puzzle is who's going to call the plays. I mean, it's been Ryan. Ryan's trying desperately, desperately to not call the plays. I think that I think you would have more confidence with a guy like Jason Candle calling the plays because I mean, he literally runs an entire team right now. Like he's baby Ryan days, head coach of Toledo. He's been it for ever since Matt Campbell went to Iowa State. So I think that Ryan would have more confidence this guy could run the offense and lead the offense because he literally leads an entire team right now. So there's no cross. There's no this guy's the play caller. This guy's the OC. Jason's going to do it all. So I think that it'll be really interesting because he seems like the fit to me. Now, again, I could be wrong. We could get Joe Brady. We could get whoever. But that's going to be, up to Ryan. And again, I think that he would give anything to have somebody match the overall excellence that Jim Knowles brought last year on the defensive side in terms of, the effort the defense plays with, the synchronization across the levels of the defense is magnificent. And that's all Jim Knowles. Like Jim Knowles demands these guys play hard. They do play hard. Our defense was second in the nation in scoring defense. And it was also, again, the thing that blows my mind is we allowed the fewest passing yards since 96. And that's insane, given how easy it is to throw the ball now in modern college football. So Ryan wants to replicate that proficiency and that level of leadership on offense. And again, I think hiring a MAC head coach is the way to do it because these MAC head coaches, I'm telling you, they're trying to get out of MAC so they can go get a Big Ten job or SEC job or whatever so that they don't get their entire roster poached every year. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? With this offense, are there any excuses left for Ryan Day?
No, I mean this is, and the good news is he knows that the new university president has made that very clear to him about the expectations about the football program, and look, everybody's mobilized. I mean, the NIL collectives are mobilized, the athletic department's mobilized, Ryan Day is mobilized. It's all hands on deck. I mean, when we first started with NIL, when we first started with the portal and everything, I remember thinking, talking to you about this, talking to other people, as I talk about my kind of like these nightmare scenarios, which is, wow, what if some team just went out there and just gobbled up all the good players and put them on their team, and that'd be something else, wouldn't it? And be like, yeah, that'd really be something else. Well, you know what? We're that team. We're the Heat with Bosch and Dwayne Wade and LeBron. And everybody, we're the super team, and so I never dreamed that I would be part of the super team, and because I always hated the super teams, but now I'm a big fan of the super teams, and I can't wait for 2024 because we literally have no holes on a roster that that's deep, a favorable schedule, and an expanded playoff. So we know we're going to have a chip in a chair come playoff time. So no excuses. Let's go.
Yeah, I always love super teams. That's why I want to go to Ohio State because I want to play at a team that was a super team. Like I want to, when you go to certain places, certain schools, certain programs, whatever, if there's a lot of weak links on that team, that roster, that starting lineup, they're going to get exposed. College coaches are too good. They know who to go after. They find it again, and I'm not going to beat Enoch to death, but Missouri figured out real quick that Enoch couldn't play. They attacked him. They figured out that our center didn't really know the calls, so they attacked him. They blitzed every play. Lincoln got out there. So imagine if we had to start Enoch all year, and we had to start Matt Jones all year at center, we had to start Lincoln all year. And again, I'm not beating on those guys, but it's you see what happens when you lose a couple of your good players. And again, Kyle McCord was a good player. I am happy he's gone for Will Allen. I think Will Allen is a huge upgrade. It's nothing against Kyle. Again, I'm just a very black and white when I evaluate things. I think, Will Howard has a much, much more diverse skill set. I think he's much more talented. I think he's much tougher. Kyle, frankly, was terrified against Michigan. Again, I watched some of the throws he missed. I'm like, those are layups. And it cost us. It cost us the game. He threw that pick. And again, you can't do that versus a great team like Michigan. But anyways, I like super teams. I want, when I was a player, I tried to recruit as hard as I could. I tried to get as many of the good high school kids to show up. And we weren't real successful because our coaching staff, they weren't great recruiters. But, no one's going to come because a kid's trying to recruit you. But, if you have good players around you, your life is like, it's way easier for me to be a good tackle when I've got like Santonio Holmes and Ted Ginn and Gonzo and Troy and Pittman and like all those guys. I mean, it's just way easier. You have bad players. Like in '04, when our running back sucked, life was terrible. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what we did. Like if you gave us Trey Henderson, no, actually, let me take it back. If we had Maurice Claret in '04, like we were supposed to, like we probably, I don't want to say we win the national championship, but like we would have been way better than 8-4, because that's how good Reese was. Reese was like incredible. You put him next to Troy in '04, and it's a whole different ball of wax. But I digress. Like I don't know why I went down that path, but it's like, you want as many stars as you can get. And again, I think that it's easier to attract stars in the transfer portal, like Caleb Downs, when you have this surge of star power across your roster. All these superstars like JJ and Edric Houston coming here, Ennis Tate, guys that know Caleb. Doesn't hurt. Mike Green, thanks for the 5 again. This is some old dumb tweet. My team up north buddy said something about us stealing practice tape. No, that was some dumb. That was like some boomersports.net Twitter account or something stupid that said, "Oh, Ohio State's main film guy stole the catapult film and sent." And it was all just. It literally was completely made up. I mean, it was elaborate. So, if you didn't know any better, you'd be fooled by it. And they did a good job of writing an elaborate tweet that fooled a lot of people. And like, "Oh, Ohio State's just as guilty as Michigan." It's like, no. That's just some idiot making something up completely. Totally fabricated. Catapult, who stores this practice field for NFL and college teams, they have the highest security standards in the world, basically, because if that stuff gets breached, their billion-dollar business is completely upside down. So you can imagine what type of security they have on each of their archives for practice footage. Richard, good. Thanks for the deuce. Appreciate you. Nevada, Bryson Rogers coming back is a huge story. I think that something that's interesting with these kids, like he took a visit to Florida, which was good, and I think that sometimes these guys go and they check out other programs and they're like, "Man, I do not want to come here. Maybe I can get back at Ohio State." And then, with all of the potential momentum and the thought of missing on a national championship year or gold pants or whatever, it brings these kids back. But your thoughts on that? Like, I mean. Because I think about a kid hitting the portal and then coming back and being like, if I was on that staff, are you worried about him hitting the spring portal afterwards? I mean, you can't make a concession for a kid that hasn't played and say, "Oh, you're going to get X amount of snaps" or whatever. But what do you think the feeling would be inside the team locker room for a kid that comes back like that? Is it like your girlfriend running out on you and then coming back home and everything's hunky-dory or not hunky-dory, or is it, I don't know, there's like a lot of weird things. I feel like if you leave in the portal once, I think the coaches are always going to be kind of wondering if you're going to do it again. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think because it came, he came and left and came back so quickly. I think that like a lot of people understand it's like you go out there, it's a business decision. You go out there and check your options, and you see that the grass isn't always greener. And in this case, this was a guy that Ohio State never stopped trying to re-recruit him back. I mean, Ohio State wanted him back. Ohio State told him at the time he was kind of emotional, he was making a mistake. They wanted him back as a Buckeye, and they kept on him. And sure enough, they were able to kind of turn this situation around pretty quickly. So I think they feel good about it now. Like you said, it's like once you've threatened the relationship, one time, do you worry about it happening again? Yeah, I'm sure that's in the back of their mind. But they went after him pretty hard, so they felt pretty good about bringing him back, and I know they're excited to have him. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, and again, I think some of these kids, they hit the market and they might not have the offers that they thought they would. Now, obviously, if you got a Florida offer, at least that's like a real offer. But Florida stinks. I mean, they got dog walked by Florida State. That's always a program since Urban. They've just been in complete disarray. Like they've basically sucked ever since the '09 team. Like since '09 when they were good and they got smacked by Bama and knocked out of they lost the SEC championship. Tebow's last year. They've sucked. Yeah, that's why people like when people bring up the Florida game in '06. I'm like, we took their coach, we won a national championship, and they've been dead since '09. I mean, they aren't the Florida Gators of the urban era by any stretch. So, it is what it is. Mike Green, Kirk, I gotta appreciate this one, man. You are killing me with these. These are funny. Kirk, please explain how rare it has been for 44 seniors plus COVID year for these bum as Team Up North fans. I dude, I appreciate your questions. These are hilarious. Dude, 44 seniors is like in modern college football is literally impossible, especially with the transfer portal because kids aren't going to stick. I mean, you only start 22 guys, so if there's 44 guys that are seniors, that's too deep across the board. And you're gonna have, if you're a good program, you're gonna have some good freshmen, sophomores, juniors playing. But yeah, that's when you have a lot of 3-star guys that can't really move on because they're not really NFL ready and they stick and they get to be good. I mean, you develop that. And again, this was a bad year for college football. This was a really bad year. So Michigan took advantage of it. Because again, if we beat Michigan, I think we win the national championship. I think we could beat that Bama team. I know we'd beat Washington. And do you see Washington's defense? Are you kidding me? Versus Ryan Day's offense, we'd kill those guys. And that being said, I mean, I don't know if they'll see 44 seniors again because of the COVID stuff. And the COVID stuff is so weird where all these guys got that 6-year thing. We have 7th-year guys. Like it's almost ridiculous at this point. We have these 7-year quarterbacks. But, again, you're not going to see that again. I mean, unless there's another fake pandemic where they shut the season down. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Tora, what's up, my man? Yeah, Bryson Rogers is back. I see that you got in here late. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being in here. My man Tora says, stay strapped always. Appreciate you. Nevada, when we, we're going to get ready. This Browns game is going to kick off in about 20 minutes. So we'll keep grinding for a little bit. It's Bryson Rogers, Tora. See, Tora's our dude. Scoop Ultra member. So appreciate you, my man. Yeah, but Bryson's back. But your thoughts on, the program right now, because again, I think this has been unbelievable. I mean, this has been the best offseason I've seen at Ohio State. The only thing that'll make it better is if we got Joe Brady, followed by Jason Candle. I think Candle makes way more sense. He's an Ohio guy, but just where are you at with this offseason grading it? Because I think Ryan's crushed it. I really do.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it's got the thing that's kind of given him incomplete right now is the staff changes. And, it's been interesting to see Laurinaitis on the road out there recruiting. We know he's kind of filling that Parker Fleming 10th accountable coach role for now, not in a full-time capacity, but it was an open spot, so he could go out there in terms of doing it. It's just hard to imagine that they'd have Laurinaitis out there doing it if they didn't have plans to have him do that longer term. I mean, I'm not saying that it would be, without precedent to change it, but James wants to do it. He's out there on the road with Knowles out there recruiting right now. I just don't see any way that they call off the jam on that. I think that job is James's to lose, and I'd be shocked if he didn't go that way on that. But that's one of the ones that you really think about. There's really only 2 big things to do: is do you bring Laurinaitis into the fold as a full-time accountable coach, which to me would be a home run, and then secondly, can you find a credible offensive coordinator? Because Ryan, to me, I'll know that he'll take the next step when he is willing to relinquish the play calling. And that's not because I think Ryan was a bad play caller by any stretch of the imagination. I just think the job is too big for anybody to do it by himself. And so I'm looking for the continued evolution of Ryan Day. So to me, it's not so important who he picks for that job. It's more that he does pick someone for that job and follows through with it, and doesn't just stay put with Corey Dennis in that spot and no changes on that side. That to me that would be disappointing, and I don't think that's the way it's going to go down. But that's certainly, as we sit right now, that's certainly a possible outcome on the board, and to me that would be disappointing.
Yeah, the coach, thanks for the deuce. You have a question, throw it in the chat. Richard Goods, thanks for the 5. Caden Proctor, number 74, favored to return home to Iowa. What kind of NIL can the Hawkeyes come up with? Well, there's actually some good money in Iowa. I don't know what NIL looks like in Iowa. I know that at Iowa State, there's a hog farmer that gives a lot of money to those guys. Because, Iowa State's going to deal with retention just like everybody else. I mean, Iowa State had each of their cornerbacks were offered $1 million by the University of Texas to transfer because they have two really good cornerbacks. So, again, NIL is very real and it is very much a threat for smaller schools. So they got to cobble some money together. But I don't know. This is okay, coach. Here's your question. This is great. I heard teammates talk about how Antoine Winfield and Vrabel were superior athletes who never tired. Who did you play with or coach with that was like that? Well, I coached. I didn't coach Johnny Simon directly, but I did open up the gym for him like every day because like on days when like Mickey wasn't there, I would go in the gym on like or on in or excuse me 2011 when Johnny would want to work out on Sundays. I'd open the gym up for him because nobody else would come in, so I'd go in because I was like I might as well work out too because Johnny's my boy. I did that in 12 too. So Johnny would like to work out 5 a.m. whatever and then go to mass like he did. He's a good Catholic kid. But I love Johnny. So Johnny was definitely one of those guys. Oh God, who are other guys? Honestly, a guy that could run was Hartline. Hartline, I mean, he would torch guys in sprints, even guys that were faster than him because he would sprint every sprint. He wouldn't jog it. He wouldn't pace himself. So, you look better if you just run every sprint. Now, you might be more tired at the end when you run in like the 16th one, but Brian had a good gas tank. He never got tired. He used to crush the stadium stairs. I used to hate running a stadium stairs because my knees were so bad and I had, torn everything in my knees. So they'd get all inflamed and swollen. And I used to tell these guys, I'm like, look, if we got to do all this run in and stairs, why don't you make all these receivers have to bench 400 pounds and see how many times they can do it? Then they'd laugh. And I'd be like, well, why don't we go do strength stuff too instead of just running all the time? But it is what it is. Like running is, the most important part of football because you got to be in shape. But Brian was a guy that had a great gas tank too because he could run a lot. Judge of the Torah, appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the fitty. You're the best, my man. I hope you're having a great Saturday. Kirk, what's good? Family, much love and respect. It seems like everyone that goes by, it's another bombshell dropping, bro. It's crazy right now. Family, it's Illmatic. Illmatic was. I love Nas. Yeah, we've been ethering the competition, so yeah, I love Nas. That's a great reference. Appreciate you, my man. But yeah, I think Vrabel was a guy that would come back and do conditioning with the team, with like with Bobby and AJ and Schlegel. Like when he was with the Patriots, like 05, he'd run the conditioning with those guys, and like he would kill them. He would kill Bobby. He would kill AJ. And Vrabel was bigger than him. Vrabel's like 6'5". He's a big dude, and his conditioning was just insane. And now Vrabel's like, he was like Fonzie. Like he go out and smoke a pack of cigarettes and drink 12 beers the night before, show up at conditioning and kill those guys. And I was like, who is this guy? And I mean, everyone knew who Vrabes was, but like he'd be out there running shirtless, and his chest hair looked like Austin Powers. So I mean, he'd have like this giant bush of hair everywhere, but he was a beast, man. I remember we played dodgeball for conditioning the one day, and Vrabes was on the other team, and I accidentally hit him right in the head with the dodgeball. I thought he was gonna kill me, but I was a big dude, so I wasn't scared. But like Vrabes is a good dude. He's crazy, and he talks a lot of trash. But I mean, he was one of those freaky athletes. Nevada, who are your favorite freak of nature athletes in Ohio State history?
Man, I mean, well, first of all, I can't believe that I didn't make the list. You've been with me in Vegas, and I can't believe that I didn't make the list of guys that can go and go the long hours and do that. I'm a little upset. I'm a little disappointed, to be honest with you.
Well, I don't,
because
you disappear into the skybox, and I don't know what time you go home. Like, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, it's 11:30. Where are you going? I'm gone. I'll be like, I don't know.
No, I mean, to me, you guys have heard this story before, but to me, the freakiest of all the freakiest athletes at Ohio State was Torrance Gibson. I know I've said that to you before, but that guy, I mean, he was a world. I don't remember what his standing broad jump was, but it was some I mean, do you remember what the number? It was some ridiculous. It was over 12 feet. It was some ridiculous. It was like within like 4 inches of the world record or something. But Torrance was a guy that we only got that one spring game to watch him play the one time, and I think he got at least a couple of touchdown passes, and it might have been three, but it was at least two. But he was the freakiest of the super freaks, and I mean, even amongst a team of unbelievable athletes like you have at Ohio State, the other guys were in absolute awe of him. So he's always on my Mount Rushmore of super freak athletes whenever we have these discussions, for sure.
Yeah, he was nasty. I don't know. Like it's gonna be. I'm trying to think of some other guys that were super. Dante was freaky. Dante Whitner smoked Ryan Hamby one day. Ryan was messing with Dante. Dante clipped him. I mean, they started fighting like in a workout, and Dante killed Ryan. And it was great. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen because Dante is like 6 foot, but Dante was like stacked up now. I mean, that kid lived in the gym. I mean, he was like a little. Like he always kind of modeled himself after Bob Sanders, who played it for the Colts in Iowa, and Dawkins. Like he liked those super physical safeties, but Dante could run. Like the thing I was about Dante, man, Dante was crazy, but he could run. He was like a bigger Antoine. You know, he wasn't as good as Antoine, but he was like a bigger Antoine. It's funny because he didn't really have the NFL career. You know, I think he made a couple Pro Bowls, but I thought he would have been like a multi-time Pro Bowler in the league. But Dante was nasty. God. You know, AJ was in good shape. I'm just trying to think of who else. You know, a guy that was like freaky was Kudla. Obviously, everyone knows Kudla could bench a house, and God, he benched like 585 or something insane. I mean, like that's what that's what most of our guys couldn't even squat 585. Kudla benched it. But Kudla was always like freaky in the weight room, strong. God, who else? Teddy, obviously Teddy. Everyone knows Teddy can fly. And that's not try to think if there's any like random ones. Beanie, like, you know, when you see Beanie and you're like, that guy runs a 4.3, like you're like, there's no way. And then he actually puts his hand down and runs a 4.3, and you're like, okay, at like 240 or whatever he was, 235, like, those guys are freaky. I'm just trying to think if there's anyone else that like people would be like, oh, that guy was freaky. Gamble. Yeah, it's funny. People have asked me, who's the guy that hit you the hardest in your career? And I was like, it was Chris Gamble. And people are like, a corner? I'm like, dude, Gamble's like 6'2". He probably weighed like 210, 215. And he came on a corner blitz. And like, it was like he like tackled me. So he got me right under my shoulder pads, hit me right in the gut. And I was like, oh my God, I about died. And Chris was a freak, man. I love playing with Chris because, you know, he's a guy, you know, people are always like, you know, there's certain teammates that you wonder where they're at, what they're doing. He just disappeared from the entire earth. Like nobody's heard from Chris Gamble in like 20 years. Like since he left Ohio State, he's never come back. He didn't go to any of the reunions, didn't go to the O2 thing, doesn't hang out with the Woody, you know, like I saw Darian Scott for the first time in like 15 years last year. Some of these guys, like you miss them because you're like, those are your dudes. And all of a sudden, you know, life happens and they go their separate ways. So, well, we'll, let me see if we can do more super chats and make sure I don't miss any. I also said I don't know Nas. Like, what do you mean I don't know Nas? How could Nas be garbage? Semi-auto by I don't want to start rapping Ether, but, you know, I could do that. Yeah, Randy Gradishar should go in the Hall of Fame this year. I hope he does. Tatum was freaky, too. Yeah, Tatum... And them boys in the 70s are crazy now because those guys were doing every drug known to man, and those guys were wild on campus. I worked with a guy that used to party with Tatum on campus when they were in college together, and it was like Jack Tatum was just a giant muscle walking around, and he would be a pretty lubed up muscle by the end of the night. And when someone tried to fight him, man, it was like fighting two cinder blocks for fists, and it did not ever end well for anyone that went against Jack Tatum. So Tatum's the best, man. Love that dude. Well, Nevada, it's about time to watch them brownies. You want to wrap this thing up?
Let's do it. Final thoughts from Nevada Buckeyes. No red right 88 Browns. Let's go. I mean, I love me some CJ, but the Browns got to put him into the ground today, and we're on the Flacco train. Let's go Browns to the Super Bowl.
Do you have a prediction?
I think the Browns are going to win the game. I've got the Browns winning 24-21.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tighter game. Now I say that, and Amari Cooper will have like 300 yards or something crazy. It is in a dome, so that does help the throw game a little bit. So, well, we'll wrap this thing up so you guys can get ready to watch the Brownies. Appreciate you guys kicking it with us. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll find a time. It looks like there's an opening now that there's that Steeler game getting moved to Monday. So we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great Saturday. Go Browns, go. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. We're going to go watch some football now. Appreciate you guys kicking it with us as always. Thank you so much, Scoop family, and thank you, Buckeye Nation. If you guys want some great content, join BuckeyeScoop.com. It is the #1 Ohio State premium website. We're on that all day. We've got a huge Browns thread and a big contingent. We're going to be talking Browns football on there all day. So consider joining BuckeyeScoop.com if you enjoy what we do on here. So again, I hope you guys have a great Saturday with your families. Go enjoy some football. 2 really good playoff games today. I hope you guys have a good one. Go Bucks.